प्रतिबोधिताम् भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथिताम् पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीम् भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् So we bow down to Bhagavad Gita, who's like Amba, who's like her mother, and which gives the nectar of Advaita Amrita, and which was told by none other than Sri Krishna to his dear friend Arjuna, and was later incorporated into the Mahabharata by Vyasena Gratitam. So, as most of you know, we have finished the first chapter. I think we have had, apart from the introduction, we have had 13 discussions so far. Today is the 14th. Now we will enter the second chapter today. So, as usual, we will first chant. Let us chant the first 10 verses of the second chapter together. Then, when we discuss the verses, you can please repeat after me. That is when we start the discussion. So, let us start with the chanting. First 10 verses of the second chapter. अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः संजय उवाच तं तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णापुलेक्षणं विषीदन्तम् इदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः। श्रीभगवान् उवाच कुतस्त्वाकश्मलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्टम् अस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन क्लैब्यमास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते क्षुत्रं हृदयदौर्बल्यं त्यक्तोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप। अर्जुन उवाच कथं भीष्ममहं सङ्ख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदन इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्हावरिसूदन। गुरून् हत्वा हि महानुभावान् श्रेयो भोक्तुं भैक्ष्यमपीह लोके हत्वार्थकामास्तु गुरूनिहैव भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिरप्रदिग्धान्। न चैतद्विद्मः कतरन्नो गरीयो यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेम यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषाम स्तेव स्थिता प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्रा कार्पण्यदोषो पहत स्वभाव पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेता यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम् न हि प्रपश्यामि ममापनुद्यात् यच्छोकमुच्छोषणमिन्द्रियाणाम् अवाप्य भूमा वसपत् समृद्धम् राज्यं सुराणाम् अपि चाधिपत्यम्. So let's stop here because it's the long verses. So in the first chapter we have seen that Arjuna has presented various arguments and justifications from withdrawing from the war, considering himself righteous, and a few more arguments will be given in the second chapter. But we know, we have seen that Krishna encourages him to fight nevertheless. The first chapter actually is very important as it served the purpose of bringing out Arjuna's emotions, what he is feeling, especially his attachment to whom he considers his own, preparing the ground for the teachings of the Gita. So, what is the connection with the second chapter? Second chapter begins to explain the nature of Shri Krishna's instruction on the knowledge of the self and the non-self, given to Arjuna, as we know. So, why did he teach Arjuna? Because Arjuna was a true seeker who had taken shelter in him. So afterwards we will see that Arjuna will say, I am your disciple, I have surrendered myself to you, please instruct me. That is the famous verse, Shishyasteham Shadhi Mam Tvam Prapannam. So you will notice that at the end of the first chapter, when we ended, Sanjay was speaking. And here also, in the beginning, we have seen that Sanjay Uvacha, Sanjay said, in the second chapter, first verse, Tam Tatha Kripaya Vishtam, that is Sanjay Uvacha. Sanjay said. So, we know that seeing his close relatives and revered teachers ready for battle in the war zone, Arjuna's mind had become overwhelmed with grief and delusion. Therefore, becoming distraught, he had abandoned his bows and arrows, sat down, wanted to refrain from the war. This was stated by Sanjay himself in the final verse of the last chapter, first chapter. That is, the context of Sanjay's speech is still ongoing. But still, we have seen, although Sanjay has not stopped, he is speaking. Again, in the second chapter, we have started with Sanjay Vacha only. So, what is the significance of that? In the Mahabharata, we witness a unique style of exposition by the great sage Vyasa. What is that? First, he describes something by what is called the Samas Paddhati. Samas Paddhati means, Samasa, Sanskrit. When we join two words, like Rama and Lakshmana, when we join, that is called Dvandva Samasa. So, Rama Lakshmanascha. So, it is a Samasa means concise description. So, Vyasa also, what does he do? He first describes in a concise way. Then, if the listener expresses curiosity to hear and understand the matter in detail, he elaborates the subject. So, the system of elaborating on a topic is called Vyasa Paddhati. So, first is Samasa Paddhati means way. Samasa means in a concise way Vyasa will say. But if something more is to be said in detail, then he will call it Vyasa Paddhati. Means he will describe it in detail. So Sanjay concluded the first chapter by briefly describing the state of mind of Arjuna. He was situated between the two armies. Dhritarashtra was listening, but Dhritarashtra was not satisfied with just that. He wanted to hear more. So seeing his eagerness and curiosity to hear and understand in detail, Sanjay proceeded to explain the same context using the Vyasa Paddhati. Means he is now describing in detail. That is why it is said Sanjay Vacha again, because now that same thing will be said in a great detail, not the same thing exactly. Now we will enter into the teachings of Lord Krishna, where he will describe tell the difference between the self and the non-self to Arjuna. So last chapter, we can imagine when Dhritarashtra heard that Arjuna had refused to fight. What is this sound which is coming?
Yeah, that's what I can't hear.
Someone's phone or what?
Somebody's phone? Oh, somebody's phone.
Anyway, so Dhritarashtra was very happy, must have been very happy when he came to know that Arjuna doesn't want to fight and he is sitting in his chariot weeping. So he must have been relieved that when Arjuna is not fighting, Pandavas cannot win. My sons will get the whole kingdom. So naturally he was curious to know what happened after that. So now Sanjay will tell what happened after that. Whether Arjuna would really not fight or whether something else would happen. So with this, we start the second chapter. So we will discuss it in detail. At least the first two verses today we will try. So the first verse, you can please now repeat after me. I will chant slowly, breaking the Sandhi portion. Tam tatha kripaya vishtam ashru purna kulekshanam Vishidantam idam vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanah. So this is the verse. Sanjay said to Dhritarashtra, to him who had thus been filled with pity, was filled with pity, tam means to him, to Arjuna, who was filled with pity, kripaya avishtam, and whose eyes were filled with tears, Ashrupurna Kulekshanam, and was distressed, Vishidantam. Idam Vakyam, this Vakya, this speech, these words, Uvacha Madhusudana. Madhusudana told these words. That is the meaning of this. That is the translation of this first verse. So Sanjay said to Dhritarashtra, tam etc., tam tatha kripaya vishtam, to convey that Shri Krishna gave instructions consisting of words of wisdom to Arjuna because he was grieving, lamenting, thinking what? Oh, my brothers, my sons may die in this battle, and thus I am filled with great compassion for these relatives. What will happen to them if we fight? So, like this, he was grieving. And seeing Arjuna with tearful and distressed eyes, Madhusudana, here the name, Krishna has so many names. So, Madhusudana
If your phone is ringing.
said to
You know, this one.
Madhusudana said to Arjuna. What did he say? We will see. So, Madhu is the name of a demon we know, and Sudana means one who slayed that demon. That is one meaning. Another meaning is Madhu may means ego. Because Madhu is also, what we call honey.
Yeah.
So honey is sweet. To us, our egos are very sweet. We love ourselves. So because the ego is desirable to us like honey, that is why Madhu is also called ego. And that ego God destroys by the light of knowledge of the self. That is why he is called Madhusudana. So Arjuna is grieving. Oh God, what will happen to me? All my relatives are there, what will happen to them? So in short, what is he telling? What are the words? He is asking God, Soham Bhagava Shochami, Katham Sansar Sagaram Tarishyami. I am grieving, O Lord. How shall I cross the ocean of Sansara? This we will see in the second chapter. So, till this awareness arises that my grief will go away only when I cross the ocean of samsara, when I overcome samsara. Till this awareness arises, there is no use of any instruction. So Krishna instructs Arjuna only when he sees that now Arjuna is fit. He has realized that the only way of overcoming grief is by crossing over samsara. So here the implication is, if we receive instructions from the Guru also, even from God, if it is to be fruitful, first we have to realize this, that we cannot overcome grief till we are attached to samsara. Otherwise, till we realize this, there will be no use of any instruction. Till we are thinking that we can overcome grief by having birthday parties and getting good bargains in shopping malls, any instruction will be useless because we are not fit. So, tam tatha kripaya avishtam, to one who was overcome by kripa. Kripa is what here? A pity. It is specially used. The ordinary sense of kripa is not used here. Here, when it pertains to Arjuna, it is a kind of tenderness that springs from bewilderment. The source of this kripa is moha, bewilderment. In the form, these people are mine. This is the moha. This is the delusion that is giving rise to this kind of pity. Avishta means filled with, overwhelmed with. So he was overwhelmed with this kind of pity. This pity was not for everyone. It was only for those selected persons whom Arjuna considered to be his own. So it is a form of moha. Because of this, Arjuna, who had so much enthusiasm for battle, he became so grief-stricken when he saw his relatives in both armies and fearing their death. What happened? His body started weakening. His mouth was drying. He was trembling. His hair was standing on end. His bow was falling from his hand. His skin was burning. He had no longer the strength to stand. And he was totally confused. This is the power of moha, which springs from attachment. So, kripaya avishta. And Akhandanandaji, one great saint, Akhandananda Saraswati, he has given very wonderful discourses on Gita. So I will share some of his insights here. He says, kripaya. So 3 words, kripa, second is kripana, third is karpanya. Kripa we know, compassion. Kripana we know, kripana is a weapon. And karpanya, miserliness, miserly disposition. When one wants, let me get everything, but I don't want to give anything. So these 3 words, they share fundamentally the same nature and they denote 3 aspects of the same thing. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Kripa in its pure form is very good if it is directed towards all living beings. So it is a result of Sattva Guna. Kripana is retaliation, is a weapon. So it is Rajoguna, Rajas. And miserliness is Tamoguna, that is the worst. So this kripa of Arjuna is not in its pure form. It is more like the third one, Karpanya. As we have chanted, Arjuna himself admits in the 7th shloka that, O Lord, I have been overcome with this great fault. What? Karpanya, miserliness. So how we shall see later what is the relation of Arjuna's weakness with miserliness. So, tam tatha kripaya avishtam, one who was overcome with pity, and vishidantam, who was sorrowing. Vishada. What is Vishada? Again, we have to go to the commentary to understand. Vishada is the distressed state of mind which goes by the name sorrow. And what is it caused by? It is caused by an apprehension of any harm coming to one's own people. To one's own people only. We are not so much bothered that what happens to other to whom we are not attached. Yes, we will discuss over phone, so many people killed this, that, there. But next moment we will forget. So we don't sorrow actually. We just say. There is no change in our lives. So when do we sorrow? Only when there is a cause of fear to people to whom we are attached. And this was happening towards Arjuna. So he was afraid that his own people would come to grief. So whose phone was it? This one. That is causing the problem. So just switch it off.
Mine, I can't switch on. It's my watch. Sorry.
So every time, why it is happening only today? Then you leave that watch in your home when you come. So now Arjuna revealed his sorrow to Shri Krishna. That Lord, this is what is happening. What to do now? Now generally, what should we do? Should we reveal our sorrow before one and all? That is another question. Generally, the rule is you should not reveal your sorrow before one and all. Rahim, the great saint, he says, Rahiman nij man ki व्यथा मन ही राखो गोय सुनी अठी लई है लोग सब बाटी न लई है कोई. So you will go and tell your sorrow to someone. In front of you, he will listen, but at your back, he will mock you. He will make fun of you. Generally, that is the rule. But here, what is happening? Arjuna was very fortunate because his guru was present, and his guru was none other than God Himself. So it is said that if one does not reveal one's state of mind to one's teacher, that is not proper. So Arjuna is revealing his state of mind not before all. He is revealing his state of mind only to his teacher. And he was very lucky to have a teacher like Shri Krishna. So he was sorrowing, Vishada, Vishidantam, sorrowing. Now, when we ended the first chapter, we have seen that what is it called? At the end of every chapter, when we chant, Om Tat Sariti Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishad Su, then the name of each chapter is given. So, the name of the first chapter was Arjuna Vishad Yoga. Now, sorrow is not something good. Why is sorrow, Vishad, also called yoga? That is the question. How can it become yoga? So this is the uniqueness of Bhagavad Gita, that the chapter describing Arjuna's sorrow also has been named a yoga, the yoga of sorrow. Even sorrow can become a yoga. But not for all. Not for all. People are not who are not dissatisfied with their worldly state, with their present condition. Not for them, because they will not even try to get out of it. Worldly life has been summed up by Swami Vivekananda in these 3 or 4 words: eating, drinking, dressing, and society nonsense. So, until one has become disgusted with all this, there will not arise detachment. If detachment is not there, there will not arise the desire to know the solution which spiritual knowledge alone can give. So it is first necessary to realize that the state we are in is not at all desirable. It is not a good thing. Arjuna has become aware of this. Here lies the difference. Arjuna has become aware of his situation. And the force of this awareness is so strong. And because he is a very great soul, he has become so sensitive that this agitates him. And he becomes sorrowful. So his sorrow has become yoga. Why? We also sorrow, but our sorrow doesn't become yoga. This is the great thing which saints tell us. So I will quote directly. Sorrow remains sorrow only as long as it is connected to some worldly object. I have lost this, I have lost that, this has gone away, my friend has gone away, my relatives have gone away. Till our sorrow is attached to worldly objects, it is sorrow. It should be given up. But as soon as it is expressed before God and it helps us to connect with God, then that sorrow becomes yoga. Because that sorrow is helping us attain God. It is helping us attain spiritual knowledge. So Arjuna's sorrow could become yoga. Why? Because Arjuna revealed it to Krishna. If he had not revealed anything, there would be no progress. Only when he revealed, Krishna told him the solution. So Arjuna's sorrow became yoga because first Arjuna revealed it. Means what? He took shelter in God. And secondly, he connected it with God. This sorrow made him, it served as a connection of Arjuna with God. That is why Arjuna's sorrow became yoga. And our sorrow can also become yoga if it is connected with God. Saints and sages have told that call on God with a longing heart. So when you are calling on God with a longing heart, you are sorrowful. But if you call on God with a longing heart and ask God, my son has not got a job, he is not getting a good wife, that is not yoga. That will not become yoga. That is just bhoga. But when you call on God and ask Him only for spiritual knowledge, you may be sorrowful because you have not attained spiritual knowledge, but that is yoga. So, tam tatha kripaya avishtam. One was filled with pity, and vishidantam, who was sorrowing. All these are adjectives of Arjuna. He is sorrowing and he is overcome by pity. And third adjective is what? In the first verse, Ashru Purna Kulekshana. So his eyes, Ikshana, were filled, Purna, with tears, Ashru. So Ashru Purna. And showed distress, Akula. So from this it becomes Ashru Purna Kulekshanam. So his eyes had become incapable of seeing owing to pity and sorrow. To that Arjuna, who had become depressed by pity and sorrow, which was growing steadily, Krishna said, another adjective of Arjuna. Now see, Arjuna had indeed come to the battlefield with the Gandiva bow and all that to fight. He had said, with whom I am to fight and all, take me between the armies. But when he saw, we have seen all this, when he saw his own relatives, then he was filled with compassion. Now, suppose a judge is trying criminals. If he sees one fine day that one criminal has been brought to him and he sees that it is his son. So, if a judge becomes so much, if he is already attached to his son, so if a judge becomes so deluded that he will pardon his son just because that criminal is son, would that be justice? Same thing is happening here with Arjuna. If a judge pardoned a criminal just because he had the attachment for him or her, there could be no greater dereliction of duty and disrespect for the temple of justice. If a judge would fail to punish a criminal just because he was attached to that criminal. So Arjuna again and again is telling, what? I will not slay my own people. My own people. So this sorrow, this pity was not rooted in dharma. It was born of delusion. And because of that, he was going to deviate from his duty. Arjuna had also left his bow and arrows. So what is the significance of leaving this bow and arrow? See, all this, what I am going to say now, all these are taken from words of great saints. So you will yourself see that without their help, we have no way of understanding. So see this wonderful thing. Now this example of bow and arrow is also given in one of the Upanishads. That Upanishad is Mundaka Upanishad. There also this bow and arrow comes. What does it say? Here it describes how a person should attain salvation. So they abound in various descriptions and similes, metaphors, etc. to make us understand. So when a person wants to attain spiritual illumination, he is aiming at something, is it not? We are aiming at something, or there is one goal in view. So how beautifully the Upanishads describe it. That it is as if someone is shooting an arrow, because arrow is also aiming at something. Is it not? So when a spiritual person is aiming to attain God, what is his bow? His bow is Omkar. That is the instrument through which he will attain God. And what is the arrow? The arrow is he himself. And what is the target? The target is God, Brahman. So the verse is Pranavo Dhanu Sharo Yatma Brahma Tat Lakshyam Uchyate. That Lakshya is what? Brahman. So here also see, bow and arrow are given. Now, when it is said Arjuna has left his bow and arrow, what is this symbolic of? Bow and arrow are symbolic of sadhana, spiritual practice. Abandoning his bow and arrow means abandoning his sadhana, spiritual practice. Means what? If one abandons sadhana, he is turning away from God. He is finished. He is destroyed. It is turning away from truth and accepting falsehood only. Because God is the only truth. Again and again Sri Ramakrishna has said, if the means to attain God is only one, sadhana. If the means to attain God are gone, how can the target be hit? If you leave the bow and arrow, how will you hit the target, which is God? So it is not proper to abandon self-effort and sit relying on destiny, thinking that the goal will be achieved when destiny unfolds. People will say, no, when God will become gracious, etc. But when they go shopping, then they don't say when God will be gracious. Then they go with full enthusiasm. So, without self effort, destiny itself does not exist. Self effort creates destiny. So, therefore, one should be devoted to self effort. It is not proper to abandon spiritual practice with the thought that God will somehow, someday bestow His grace. The descent of divine grace occurs only upon those who are devoted to sadhana. And it is sadhana which keeps a spiritual seeker alert. Only a seeker equipped with sadhana is capable of grasping divine grace. Divine grace is not created by sadhana. It is always there. But we don't have the fitness to realize it. Sri Ramakrishna says again and again, the wind of divine grace is always blowing. But we don't want it. So humanity of a human being lies in being devoted to spiritual practice. Other things even animals can do. Animals also have children. Animals also go on eating here, this and that. They also have families. So the only thing which distinguishes human being is what? That he has the capacity to improve himself through sadhana and attain God. But Arjuna, by abandoning his bow and arrows, was preparing to turn away from the ultimate purpose by abandoning sadhana itself. So the surge of compassion, which was rooted in what? In grief and delusion, had brought him into this strange state. Just as at the time of death all the bonds of the body seem to break, so similarly today's Arjuna's bodily bonds were also loosening. His mouth was drying up, his hands and feet were trembling. All this we have seen. And Ashrupurna Kulekshana. Being agitated, he was also weeping with tearful, overflowing eyes. In this way, Arjuna, overwhelmed by grief and delusion, was standing before Krishna, revealing his entire mental anguish. Through the surge of compassion in his mind, because of that surge, he was revealing his mental anguish. So to him, Madhusudana, what did he do? Tam tatha kripayavishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam vishidantam, we have seen. To him, what did Sri Krishna do? Vakyam uvacha Madhusudana. To Arjuna, who was grieving due to his attachment, Lord Madhusudana, God himself, spoke this Vakyam, spoke these words. What are the words? That will be from the next verse. So, Vishidantam Uvacha. Now, when we say Uvacha means said. So, if it had been said, Bhagavan Vishidantam Arjuna Uvacha, Bhagavan said, that would have been sufficient actually. Because what is said are words only. So when we say Vakyam Uvacha, he said these words, words is not necessary. If I said to someone, it will only be words. So why in the Gita here Vakyam is added? Madhusudana Uvacha would have been sufficient. In the beginning, don't we see Bhagavana Uvacha? It is not said Bhagavana Vakyam Uvacha. So why a Vakyam is given here extra? So there is a special reason for this. Because what Sri Krishna was going to say were not ordinary words. They were very extraordinary. Our words are ordinary, but God's words are not ordinary, and especially what He has said in the Gita. That is why it is Bhagavad Gita, means song of God, not any ordinary person. It's a divine speech. So this divine speech of Krishna is directly striking at what? At evil. What is that evil? The evil of abandoning one's own duty, which had come upon Arjuna. But it had come in a disguise. It had come in the form of pity. This was creating a turmoil in Arjuna. And Arjuna was thinking of withdrawing from the war. But it will prove to be beneficial, as we have seen, because Arjuna will become aware of his condition. He will become aware of his fault, and the desire will awaken in him to get spiritual knowledge, and he will surrender to God. So, Vakyam Uvacha, that is why Vakyam is said. Because these words of Krishna we should specially concentrate on those words. Those will not be ordinary words. It is not some novel or storybook. These are great words which are coming straight from God. To draw our attention, that Vakyam is used. Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudana. So Madhusudana we have already seen. What is the meaning? Madhu was the name of a demon, and Krishna had slain that demon, he became Madhusudana. But as you know, in our scriptures, all these stories have a special significance. They are not just simply ordinary stories. So we all know the story of that demon Madhu. Madhu and Kaitava. Madhu and Kaitava we have already discussed. Which scripture do they come in? Madhu and Kaitava? Yeah, Durga Saptashati. So Madhu and Kaitava were two demons. In the Durga Saptashati, their origin is described. What is the origin? See, each thing is significant here. And we can never realize this without the help of saints and sages. It is said that they had originated from the ear wax of God. God, the Virat Purusha or the cosmic being. And what do these demons represent? Madhu represents attachment, raga, and Kaitava represents aversion, dvesha. So like and dislike. Raga, dvesha. These demons represent these qualities, and these qualities are binding us to the world. They are said to originate from the ears of God, from the ear. Why? Because attachment and aversion, they are only formed in us by hearing. Hearing good and bad through the ears, we get some opinion, and the impressions of attachment and aversion settle on the mind. But the source is what? Hearing. So one fellow has told us, this man is very bad. It has come through the ears. Now we form an dvesha, disliking for the man, just by hearing. You may not have heard of that. So all this is happening, no, just by hearing this, whatever is going on in the media, people are killing each other here. It is so strong, without verifying, just by hearing. It is happening in front of our eyes, so we can understand how powerful it is. So now, in the Chandi we have read, Madhu and Kaitava emerged from God, and it is surprising that having emerged from God, they also became ready to fight God.
Yeah.
Is it not surprising? So all this we have read, but see, this doesn't strike us. Only when we read the words of these people, their insights give us this. So although Madhu and Kaitava are emerging from God, they are becoming ready to fight with him. So fighting with God means what? Not being devoted to God. And Raga and Dvesha, these are our enemies, scriptures say. They make us fight with God. Means what? They prevent us from becoming devoted to God. So Madhu and Kaitava in the form of attachment and aversion create disturbance within us and present obstacles in our union with God. Vishwatma Bhagavan, it is said. So, attachment and aversion, raga and dvesha, what do? They are called differentiators of the undifferentiated, who divide one which cannot be divided. They create differentiation in what? They create differentiation in the Atman. Because we see this is good, this is bad. We don't see that everything is actually the one reality. So what are we doing by our attachment and aversion? We are creating differentiation in the Atman, in which there can be no differentiation. See, wonderful how he is described. And Madhu and Kaitava afterwards, in the Chandi we have read that they themselves suggested to God. They become so egotistic that they themselves told God that how they could be destroyed. So what did they say? Aham jahina yatrovi salilena paripluta. Slay us where the earth is not flooded with water. So earth is gross matter and water is the essence. Water is called the rasa. Water is the essence. So one is gross, the other is subtle. So earth and water and the gross objects present in them are symbolic of what? Of attachment to sensory pleasures. The two means of eliminating attachment and aversion are what? When they said, slay us where there is no water also. This means the way of conquering Madhu and Kaitava, of conquering attachment and aversion are what? Neither having external contact with gross objects, nor having internal attachment to them. Neither earth nor water. Don't have any gross contact with them also, because when the senses see those things, you will become attached. You will go to a shopping mall and see all these wonderful things lined up. So we had thought we won't purchase anything, but still we go and get something. Why? Because our eyes, through the contact, we become attached. So gross form is this. Give up the gross form. Unless you give up the gross form, the internal subtle element attachment will not go. So this is what earth and water represent. The gross form and the subtle attachment. When these both are gone, then Madhu and Kaitava, attachment and aversion, we can fight, we can start the fight against them. Before that, we cannot even start the fight. When we are busy eating this and that, and no chance. So, both are necessary. External renunciation and internal detachment. One is called the Bahya Tyaga, and second is called Antara Vairagya. This meaning is revealed here. That God is the slayer of Madhu and Kaitava. So complete freedom from Madhu and Kaitava, complete freedom from attachment and aversion comes by this process alone. And God will come to our help and slay those enemies if we take shelter in God. That is why He is Madhu Sudana. The slayer of Madhu and Kaitava means the destroyer of our attachment and aversion. So now, who is speaking to Arjuna here? Madhusudana is speaking. God has many forms. So Krishna, the cowherd who was dancing with gopis, he is not speaking here. That was a different form. Madhusudana is speaking here. Madhusudana means he was slaying demons. So now if Madhusudana speaks to someone, he will naturally speak of destroying demonic forces, is it not? He also wants Arjuna to destroy the demonic forces. And when Krishna is slaying demons, when God is slaying demons means what? If there is sufficient cause, he will not hesitate from slaying, from killing. We think slaying is very bad. Because why? We are identified ourselves with our bodies. So we think killing means finished. If someone destroys my body, I will be finished. But we don't know that the body is nothing actually. If the body is destroyed, there will be no harm to us. We are separate from the body. But since we don't realize this, for us, birth and death are a great thing. But that is not for God. Only the person who identifies himself with the body considers killing improper. And he should consider it. It is good that he considers it. Because till you feel you are the body, you have to also think that others are also the body. So naturally, you cannot have it one way. That I am the body, but he is not the body, so go and kill him. No. But in God's eyes, changes in the body or even body perishing has no significance. If a person can be improved by his body perishing, if he can go to God, let the body perish, doesn't matter actually. So if someone has been constantly averse to God, he is constantly averse to the imperishable Supreme Soul due to his faults and misdeeds, and if the remaining of such persons in the world may cause great harm to the others, may cause great harm to the society, then it is God Himself in the form of Madhusudana who will provide the proper guidance as to how to slay those people. If it is done as a duty, as a service, then Arjuna will not incur any sin. Again and again he is telling, no, I will incur sin. But he is forgetting that he is supposed to do his duty here. One person does not incur sin by unselfish performance of his duty. Hence, it is mentioned, the name which is given to Krishna here is Madhusudana, not Brindavan Bihari Krishna, no. So Madhusudana, the slayer of Madhu, is speaking to the despondent Arjuna. Means what? The inspiration for slaying the demonic natured aggressors through war, Arjuna should receive from one who had slayed the demons, Madhu and Kaitava. So the word Madhusudana has been used in the verse to convey this sentiment. So each word, we have examined each word in detail. Tam, to that Arjuna, Tatha Kripaya Avishtam, was overcome by pity. We have seen what kind of pity was that. Tam Tatha Kripaya Avishtam, Ashru Purna Kulekshanam, whose eyes were filled with tears. Idam Vakyam Uvacha, God said these words. What form of God? The form of Madhusudana, who was a slayer of these demons, Madhu and Kaitava. So in that form, God spoke to Arjuna, so that cowardice of Arjuna should go. He would also remember his greatness, remember his bravery at other times, and not be willing to refrain from his duty because of his attachment. So I had thought of completing 2 verses, but our time is up. So that second verse is also fantastic. Now, of course, God starts His words, so each verse we should carefully concentrate. That's why I'm going into so much detail. So let's stop here. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum.